it's 9 o'clock and we want to be respectful of everyone's time, so.
I don't like using the mic. We're going to start this off, if you don't mind. We're going to start, if you can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing. We're going to have a brief prayer. So, I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Welch, would you mind?
Sure. Let us pray. Our kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to live in America. Father, we thank you for our leaders, and we just ask that you keep your hedge guard of care around them as they lead our country to the way that you would have us to be led. We thank you, Father, for this day that we can fellowship and we can learn more. And we're going to give you the praise, the glory, and all the honor. For it's in Christ's name we ask these things and praise thee. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lindsay Madison. Is that any better? There's a little echo in there. So I'm Lindsay Madison. I'm the president and CEO of the Fort Scott Area Chamber of Commerce. And we are so glad that you are here this morning for our Capitol update over coffee with our state senator, Tim Shallenburger, and Representative Rick James, and our moderator, Bryan Holt, who's past chairman of the board several years back, and with Union State Bank. So we're so glad that you are here this morning. It's a pleasure for us to host this, usually annually during the session. We go up for a day on the Hill early February up to the Capitol on their turf, and it's nice to invite them down here so that our local constituents can come and get an update on the session and have the opportunity to ask any questions that you would like to this morning. So I want to thank Kansas Renewal Institute for hosting us this morning. We have TJ and some other Denny and some other staff members and Shauna Stewart helped put all this together this morning. So we want to thank you guys for hosting. They will be offering tours of the facility immediately following this, and I highly encourage you to take that tour. It's an impressive facility here, and you'll learn more about what they do. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Lindsay. In case you didn't get an agenda, just to go through it real quick, we're going to have the Senator Shallenburger and Representative Rick James just give an overview. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and what they do, what committees they serve on, and then talk about the session. And we'd like to leave maybe 20 to 30 minutes for questions from the audience. And then, as Lindsay mentioned at the end, there'll be an opportunity to take a tour of this facility and learn more about what Kansas Renewal Institute does here for our community. And so I would just say Senator Shallenburger and Representative James have been very gracious to be responsive and open to our community and big supporters of Southeast Kansas in general. And we're glad to have them here, and we thank them for their taking part of their Saturday to spend it with us this morning. And so, Senator Shallenburger, if we could start with you, if you want to introduce yourself, talk about your committees and what's going on in this session.
I'll do it. Do I need this? People in the back, can you hear me? Yeah. Just turn that off on that. Well, I'm Tim Shallenburger. Most of you should have heard my name in a good or bad way by now. I am the Vice President of the Senate. I became Vice President last year when we re-upped. I've been elected one time by the general public. And, I first filled in a vacancy of Senator Holt. I also serve on the tax committee, and we'll talk about that. But let me start by thanking the chamber. You know, I have a lot of towns. I have 3 counties, like Cherokee, Crawford, Bourbon County, Baxter, Columbus, Galena, Girard, Uniontown, you know, on and on and on. There's not a chamber that's more active than Fort Scott. You're too active. I mean, I don't know how you keep up, because every seems like there's something every day. I get invited to all of them, and I think, man, I should go, but it's an hour and a half, and I just got home, and so I miss a lot of those. But and I got a lot of towns, so we try to do some know that we're going to get KRI, and then we're going to get Freeman, and KRI's got to get a license, and Freeman's waiting on their license, and there's all kinds of government in the way here. And so we've been working pretty hard ever since the first of the year, maybe before the first year when I was notified of all the troubles that were happening. They're not troubling troubles. They're just dadgum paperwork hassles. And the government is not a user-friendly thing, but we're getting it. So I think that we're starting to move the speed bumps out of the way, and it's very important to this county and this town that these institutions get going here and work. And so I just want to say for the state's behalf and for people in Southeast Kansas behalf, hang in there, and we'll get through all this paper shuffle and get it all taken care of. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you have here. Both sides, the House and Senate, you know, this is the second half of the session. Last weekend was turnaround. What that means, for those of you who don't have any reason to understand it, is all the bills, the House bills, had to be out of the House by last Friday, and all the Senate bills had to be out of the Senate by last Friday, and they swapped. And so we start working House bills in the Senate, that we started working them this week, and they started working Senate bills in the House this week. Now that's the way it's supposed to be. We're still working on our budget. We're going to do that Tuesday. I think you passed your budget Friday, maybe Thursday or Friday. And so that's the last big bill. And there's still Senate bills in the Senate, House in the House. A few of them that are still alive. But that's pretty much what happened. I think the Senate probably passed 150 bills all first half of the session. The House probably 250. I mean, they were just billing and blowing over there. And, you know, we'll take up 75 of theirs, and they'll take up 50 of ours. And then they may not even work on it. They may have hearings on them in the committee, and then go to conference committee. And all the things that are passed to one side or the other can be inserted in a conference committee report. So, if I've lost y'all, raise your hand, so we'll go over it a little more. The tax bill, we both passed our major, what I suppose would be considered our major tax proposals. They look alike on paper, but they're significantly different in the way they will work. The Senate, we passed 5 or 6 little tax bills that help us eliminate sales tax on certain items or add a tax to it. But basically, the big one is a concurrent resolution, which will go on the ballot. It's a constitutional amendment that says, in short, that in any one given year, the assessed valuation of your home or your farmland or your commercial property, but that it doesn't really affect them. So the assessed value on your home can't go up more than 3% in 1 year. Now that doesn't mean your taxes can't go up more than 3%. It just says that the assessed valuation doesn't. 25 years ago in Kansas, homes represented about 35% of the property tax. And then commercial and agricultural and industrial and utility and all the other represented 2%. And so, you know, it was really kind of third, and the homes are a third. Today, almost 60% of the property tax you pay to your county is on residential real estate. So over time, the commercial property has not gone up, the agricultural property has not gone up, but the homes have. They're picking up a much bigger chunk of the tax bill in the county. The state doesn't collect your property tax, by the way, so everybody, I get a lot of calls, what have you done to my property? We haven't done anything, we don't collect it, cities and counties and schools collect property tax. But it hasn't gone up in certain areas and has in others. The reason that I think the homes have suffered is if you have farmland, and if you have farmland, you know your appraisal's done on used value. And so unless your farm is starting to make a whole lot of money, and I haven't seen a farm make a whole lot of money in decades, then your tax won't go up. It might go up a little, but not really. Commercial property, if you own a commercial building downtown, you've got a coffee shop downtown, and you pay $50,000 for the old building, and you put a little work in it, and you wouldn't sell it for $75,000. It's probably appraised at $40,000 because there aren't comps to make up I'm making these numbers up. Fort Scott may be higher. But you can also go to the appraiser and say, look, I can use use value for that, and I can say, look, I can't rent it for what you think it's worth. So no matter what I've got in it, no matter what you could sell it for, your appraised value could be less. If you're a homeowner, you get none of that. Market value. Neighbor's house sold for $150,000, you've got a house very much like it, your property tax will be based on $150,000. And so that's why it's creeped up over the years. Constitutional amendment has passed, it passed the Senate with 30 votes, had Democrats and Republicans vote for it, which first time that's happened in a long time. Went to the House, and we'll see what they do. House passed a similar measure. You want me to explain it best I can?
Yeah, go ahead.
And you will know better than I haven't voted on this, but to put it in comparison, it's a statute. It just changes, it doesn't require a constitution, and it doesn't have to be voted on. It's more of a tax lid that says the city and county can't raise their budgets more than 3 or 4%. I don't know where it ended up, but and it's not a terrible budget lid. There are ways around it for inflation and new growth and stuff like that. But that's the difference. And that's the difference. Ours, the school can, let's say the homes don't go up this year more than 3%, they've been going up 6%. And the school says, wait a minute, we gotta have a little more money. Just raise the millage. That's what happens. What ours does is it takes away the creep where you think your taxes aren't going up, but the appraiser makes the revenue for you all the time. And I don't think property is terribly overappraised down here. It's just fact of life, and that's the way it goes. The other big thing, we've done 2 other things that I'd like to encourage my House friends to do. One was a bill we passed last year. We call it the 340B bill. And I'm not an expert in healthcare, but I know this: every hospital in Kansas wants it. It allows them to get some rebates from big pharma that are authorized by the federal government, so the hospitals can get these rebates for drugs that they use, and it doesn't cost taxpayers a penny. And so it makes the hospital better. They get to earn a little more money. It doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. It's paid for by Big Pharma. Big Pharma hates it. So when you walk down the halls in Topeka, you think, well, everybody ought to like this. Everybody except the 17 lobbyists that they've hired to tell you how terrible it is. But that bill passed with 34 votes in the Senate, and it had 6 no's in the Senate, and it went to the House, and the Speaker has refused to run. He's put it in a committee that he's told him not to run, so it's not going to work. The second bill that we passed 32 to 8. I thought maybe 32 to 6, but it deals with pharmacy benefit managers. Does anybody in here besides the healthcare people know what a pharmacy benefit manager is? No, they don't want you to know what they are. Google, when you go home tonight, you're not doing anything, just Google pharmacy benefit. Just Google it. No, don't say bad things about them or good things about them, because when you Google it, it's all bad. They've been sued in almost every state. The federal government has sued them. We've sued them. Canada sued them. Got $26 million. out of one. What they do is they basically are the middlemen between the pharmaceutical, the pill makers, and the pill distributors. And so they make, and they're owned by insurance companies. That's an interesting thing. So the insurance company owns a company, and the company decides how much we're going to pay the pharmacist for the pill. And so they negotiate these deals with Pfizer, and they say, for drug X, we'd like to, what do you want? And they say, we want $1,000 for a script. And they say, well, we'll give you $500 because we're going to buy in volume discounts. So Pfizer says, okay, you give us $500, we'll get it. And then they say, and if we sell so many, we'd like to get a rebate, $200. Okay, we'll get a rebate. Then they go out to, then the insurance company that owns the PBM also owns the pharmacy. But it's not the pharmacy you see here in town. You don't have any of those here in this town, because they've shut everybody down. They've got these write-in, ship-off pharmacies, or they've got CVS. CVS is owned by Caremark, which owns a PBM, which owns Oak Street Health. So they own the doctors, they own the nurses, they own the pharmacies, they own the insurance company. They got you. And you're going to pay whatever they want you to pay. PBMs last year made over $400 billion. I think 2 of the top 100 Forbes list are PBM. And so in Kansas, we passed a bill that said, look, you can't direct people. You have to pay everybody the same thing. You can't give CVS more money than you give Fort Scott Drugstore or Walgreens, which shut down. Walgreens supports the bill. Walmart supports the bill. Independent pharmacies support the bill. And what's in the bill that you will hear the most about, if you haven't yet, or maybe you already have, is they call it the pill tax. So there's this pharmacy benefit manager company has formed a nonprofit to advertise that Senator Shallenburger voted for a pill tax, and he's caused your health insurance to go up. And don't vote for that in the House because it's a pill tax. Every state that's done it, in almost every state that's done it, has included in it a provision that says you have to pay a minimum amount of money to a pharmacy to fill a prescription. You can't give them less than they charge. I mean, you can't say we'll save this drug for $400, but we're going to give you $100 to pharmacists. You got to give them at least $10. That's what it says for every one. The same way we do Medicaid. Same way they do Medicare. They get $10, $10.50 actually. And all this bill says we're going to do the same thing here. The reason I wanted to talk about it, because most of you glazed over and you don't care, is it's very important. We have lost in this state hundreds of independent pharmacies. And they're not just small mom and pop. Walgreens can't compete. Walmart can't compete. They want you to buy your prescription from some company in New Jersey, and they will ship it to you. And once they get everybody out of business, watch what happens to the price of the stuff. I've told them if Teddy Roosevelt was alive, this would not be happening, because this is absolute price fixing and absolute vertical integration in their price. Those are the biggest things that we've been working. We worked that bill took a lot of time on the floor, took a lot of time in committee. We have passed a few other small things. Education funding, our education funding in Kansas expires this year. This is our last year of the formula that we've been under for, 20 years. That's about right. And the wheels were wobbling on it about 20 years ago. It started rough. There was a big fight between the legislature and the schools, and it started rough. But it's the last 10, 12 years, it's kind of worked the way it's supposed to. Legislators will contend that the cost of living increases are costing too much. Schools will say, cost of living, guys, everything goes up. It's not our fault that we have to pay our teachers more, and their insurance is going up, and school bus fuel has gone up, and et cetera, et cetera. This is the last year of school people in the room next year, when we'll have to talk about that house redone. It's an election year, so we have to do with all the election year. It's not an election year for me, but it's an election year for the House. The governor is out. Speaker, for example, who by the way, the bill that we sent over on PBM, Speaker doesn't like that one either. He's going to stick it in the same majority stuff, the 340B bill. He's running for insurance commissioner. Interesting thing. So he's on the side of insurance companies, both of issues. That's my personal opinion. That's probably enough for me to say. We can talk about a lot of things. We've done some election work. Most of this stuff's been. The House has had more fun, if you want to listen to the floor debates, than the Senate has. We've had a pretty dry year. But I'll hang around for questions. I can talk about anything. I won't be right about it, but we can talk about it.
You good? Yep. I'm Rick James. I live up in Lynn County, as some of you know. And this is my first term. This is my second session. And it's amazing how much you learn your second session. And the first one, you just don't really know a whole lot. But I did have the privilege of sitting in the chair this year, and for a day and 6.5 hours of debate on the floor, and while our fellow legislators debated bills. So that was truly an honor. So the senator talked about turnaround, how important it is. Had a little bit of time off for the legal to get everything moved over and everything over to us. A lot of bills. We like to send a lot of bills. I learned that in my first session. Some legislators like to submit 20 bills and maybe one or two maybe get through. I think it's more important to focus on what everybody submitted and trying to pass out good bills. And I did put 3 bills forward this year. 2 are on property taxes, eliminating property taxes from new car sales and used car sales, because when you go down to the dealership or wherever car lot, you pay sales tax, and then you go to the DMV and you pay property tax. 2 taxes on one thing. Hopefully, we'll get one of those removed, if not both of them, and those should run pretty soon. And there's 4. We talked about bills moving over there and bills moving to us, but there are 4 committees that are exempt from. They can just submit a bill anytime they basically want to, up to pretty close to when we adjourn, and we're supposed to adjourn April 11th, and that's the tax committee and the appropriations and help me out. Fed and State covers so much stuff. It's incredible, and then calendar as well. So we did all the bills, turned around and come back, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the governor has a choice. And what happens once the bills get to her? Once both sides agree to it, they vote on it, they send it up to the governor. She has 3 choices. She can either sign it into law, she can either not sign it into law and it'll just become law after, I think, 10 days, or she can veto it. She vetoed 1 bill this year. And it was an override in the Senate, override in the House, and that was Senate Bill 244, and it's kind of a nickname called the bathroom bill. If you watch the news, it went in effect on Thursday, and that bill allows boys to go to the boys' room, girls to go to the girls' bathroom. We thought that was very important because you should probably have males in girls' bathrooms, and for their protection as well as kids' protection. So that was the one reason I voted for getting that bill. And also, it also was for driver's license as well. So anybody that had, other than their biological sex on it, 1,700 driver's license were invalidated last week. So that'll have to be changed. And I'll just talk a little bit about my committees. I serve on 4 committees. My first one was elections. It's a crazy committee because everything's a battle and everything's a fight. And like Senator Shallenburger talked about my Speaker of the House, we have someone running for Secretary of State, and there's a lot of bills that he's put through. But one I wanted to make sure we got straight on, and that's 2150. It eliminates mail-in only ballots. So some people think we're going to get rid of all mail-in ballots, but this is for mail-in only ballots elections. And it happens very, very few. It's usually a local election, wanting a bond or some type of something. And the reason it's important, we felt that, and I didn't know this till I started working over there a lot and asking questions, the Secretary of State has to clean up the ballot rolls. And there's twice as many people that's 65 and older that's dead than there are alive that's on the rolls, okay? So we thought those should be floating around. So there's also some language in elections to try to clear that up as well. Corrections and juvenile justices could be a big hit later down the road. Is the Hutchinson State Prison, the DOC, and some other organizations want a new prison. The prison was built in the 1870s, and it's close to probably $1.2 billion when if they get what they want. So we'll see what happens there. And there was one bill that I thought, I'm just hitting on bills I think might interest you. When you reach a certain point in your conviction and you're getting ready to get out, a lot of times they'll release you for work release. So they released this one individuals to work at the Hutchinsons at our state fair, and they were sex offenders. So they didn't think that was right. So we had a long debate on that, and one side, being the Democrats, they wanted it to stay that way. They thought it was a way to re-incentivize people that's coming back into society. And we didn't, and it's over in the Senate to at least look at now. And so that was the big one on corrections that I paid the most attention to. Another one on veterans. I chair the veterans group starting this session. I chair that. And so there's a House bill called 2214. Any veterans in here, to get your VA benefits, you can go through a VSO, Veteran Service Officer. And that's done by, a lot of times it's done through the Kansas Office of Veteran Services, done by our VFWs, it's done by our American Legion, DAV, those organizations all do it. They claim they do it for free, but they don't really do it for free because we give them millions of dollars a year, the state does, to fund these organizations. But they didn't want anybody to fund it that charges a veteran. Even if they knew that they're going to pay for it. I paid for the service myself. 2 different organizations. Very fast. Within 70 days I was done. And it was all done. Everything was done for me. They said they should be accredited. And I will tell you that the only reason they don't need to be accredited, and we researched, spent a lot of time on it, is the VSOs. They go through the VA and they get accredited because they submit everything on your behalf. This organization gives you everything and you submit it on your own behalf. And so that's a bill that has a lot of controversy for a lot of the VFWs, but there's several VFWs that's all for it. So you might hear something about that if you got questions, ask me later. The one that Senator just talked about, Senate Bill 360, the bill, right?
That's it.
The only thing I have a gripe in, and I got to get cleared up, is in the bill itself, and I haven't talked to Senator Shallenburger. Every time I go by his office, he locks the door on me. No, he doesn't. He's always busy. He's always got something in there being a vice president. But there's a $10.50 that you see in there. It's actually in the bill. That part I got to get cleared up, and I'll take care of that with Senator after this. And it was voted 32-8, I believe, is how it passed out of there. So I just want to clear that up and get that going. Education funding, I'm not on that committee at all. I know our side, as Republicans, claim that the special ed is funded. If you count school of deaf and school of the blind, at $32 million, and they claim it's at 93%. Dumb bill, I'll give you a dumb bill. That's the SNAP bill, that candy bars and Coca-Cola and soda pop. So last year they submitted the bill on it, and I thought it was a horrible bill because it would have made stores and convenience stores and all that decide what type of candy bar is nutritious. And it was that bad. If it had flour in it, you could have a Kit Kat, but you couldn't have a Hershey bar. But you could have a Hershey bar if it had almonds in it. Finally, we got that junk thrown out, and I think we got a decent bill, and that's something, of course, the federal government likes as well. And the last one is our property tax that Senator Shallenburger talked about. There was 4 amendments on that property tax bill with 3% cap on it. 2 of them were technical amendments. The third one was a 5%. We moved to from the protest petition on that's the big thing. we were getting rid of revenue neutral. Hopefully we'll get it put back in. We'll talk to Senator Tyson to have that put back in with a protest petition included. But the protest petition would allow you, once you find out that they're going to exceed that 3%, that you could file a petition and take get that removed. So that was one of them. The other one was a ridiculous thing. Was they had a $60 million state-funded cap in there that they were going to pay, or any city that, or any organization, local governments and counties included, school districts, if they exceeded 3%, but they still needed 2% more, up to 2%, they could get that. So we got that removed as well. So we got two big things out that we think will help you with the protest petitions, and also I hope that we get that Senator Tyson. See, I got two senators, Senator Shallenburger, our vice president of the Senate, and then Senator Tyson, who's the tax chair for the Senate. And so I got to stay on their good side, both of them. But no, they're good.
Hard to do.
It is very hard, very hard. But that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you saw on the news, but Governor Kelly also is now going to agree and go in compliance with the
I saw that.
with the SNAP program and turn in all of her records that we believe that she should have done back in August when they were asked for by the federal government. So that's all I got for now. Go ahead.
Well, thank you both. So we're going to open it up for questions from you all. I don't know that we need a mic, but I'll have it available if you want it. But I'd ask that if you have a question, raise your hand. When you're acknowledged, if you could state your name, where you're from, and then ask your question, that would be great. So, Ann, you want to lead us off?
Yes, I do. Let's see. I guess I'll start with Senator Shallenburger. I saw this letter this week that Senator Michael Murphy in the 34th District is willing to introduce legislation to ensure the best interest of the community as it comes to data centers. If you can't get it individually, something has to protect our county individually, he's willing to pass legislation. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the bill, but I think I understand. I think I understand what he's talking about, and we really should go a little beyond data centers. Currently, the state has not given any help to anybody with regards to wind farms, solar farms, battery storage, and data centers. They're all relatively new. I mean, wind has been around for 15 years now, and the only thing that the state has recommended on wind is that we exempt them from property tax, and we have required the wind company, the wind company to make a payment in lieu of tax to the local entity. So a wind turbine out there has probably made a deal with the landowner that we're going to give you $20,000 a year, and then they made a deal with the county or the school district or somebody. That happened. Solar companies have come in and are trying to operate under the same guidelines, and they're kind of getting stopped. I mean, they're protests, and we're going to zone and all, so they're kind of stumbling. Data centers and battery storage kind of are in the same boat. And so I'm assuming what he's doing, which I think Senator Tyson has recommended that we do, is that the state step in and say, look, if you're going to put a data center or you're going to put a solar farm or whatever, you've got to have certain setback requirements. You've got to have certain requirements on how much water you use. You have to make sure that for a data center, for example, that the transmission lines, that we don't end up paying for transmission lines to get it to your property, that you recycle the water, things like that we set up a framework for these things to happen. I don't think anybody is saying that these things are necessarily bad or good. We're saying that we need to help communities. And when all we do is say, well, you can't tax them, that isn't much help at all, because they should be able to be taxed. I think of all the things out there, and I get in trouble, every time Ann asks a question, I get in trouble, listen. She'll put it in something on my phone server. I think of all the things out there, data centers are probably the best. They don't take up, their footprint isn't very big. Somebody does need to regulate the water, because they can suck a river dry if you let them. But they're clean, I mean, beyond that. And they pay property tax. That right now, they're the only entity out there that I think is still on the property tax roll. And they haven't negotiated that. Now they're trying, but it hadn't passed. And you can zone them. I mean, you can tell them, you know, you can only get an industrial park or stuff like that. But we need to, the state needs to step in and regulate, so every county treats them the same and make sure they pay tax. While I'm standing up, there's something I forgot to talk about, and this helps people. So we have a homestead tax exemption in Kansas, and we've expanded it. So if you are 65 or older, or you're a disabled veteran, and many of you may know about this, you qualify for a homestead property tax exemption. This is how it works. It's actually an income tax. You have to file it with your income tax. So you have to do it by April 15th. But if your adjusted gross income in Kansas, your Kansas adjusted gross 58,000 or less, adjusted gross does not count Social Security anymore. We've taken that off. So if you hit Social Security, that doesn't count. Papers, for example, it doesn't count. You're an old school teacher. And we go from
He looked right at it.
who do I look at? Somebody the number two. I'll look at Jack. Anyway, if you fall in those categories, if that works, then whatever year you turn 65, say you turn 65 in 2002, you can go back to what your property tax was in 2002, and you get a rebate for whatever it's gone up. So it's an income tax form. When you file your income taxes, mention it if you think you qualify. I think it's 58,000, 54,000 adjusted gross income. Kansas adjusted gross income, which takes Social Security some retirement status. I'll shut up. I'll probably get another question.
Can I ask just a follow-up question on that? The Department of Revenue gets those returns, why does somebody have to request it?
Well, because you have to fill out a form, and we don't know what your house was taxed at in whatever year you qualify. I mean, I suppose we could calculate the year you qualified, but you have to own your house, and you have to still be in the same house. So it's not a complicated form. You can go online and get the form. I don't know the number, but it's Kansas homestead exemption.
I guess my question would be better, maybe it would be the Department of Revenue saying, hey, you qualify for this based on your adjusted gross income on your state return, just a little notification.
Well, you qualify if those things happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. James, you voted in favor of House Bill number 2433, that in my understanding, the state already controls our water, but this gives even more control to the state.
It does. This is a big water bill that went into effect. Two counties, a county and a city, have been fighting for years and years and spent millions and millions of dollars fighting each other. And as a group, we felt that if we had a little more, we would just take control of the situation, and hopefully we made the right decision on that, and we're not going to start dictating every single little thing out. But that was the reason. It was, I think it was an 82 or 83. So yeah.
So why did you pass it? I don't understand.
Because it made sense. If they're going to fight over, if we're going to fight over, and it's going to cost taxpayers millions and millions of dollars, let the state mediate that. That's the reason I got that.
have any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
Hi, my name is Lynette Westcott. I'm a 31-year veteran teacher. And I have a couple of questions, particularly about vouchers. And so this is directed to Representative Rick James. In October of '24, I want you to know Shallenburger made a promise publicly that he would not support vouchers. And I want to explain what vouchers are. Vouchers take our public tax dollars and give them to private entities, private schools, and if language passes, even somebody's backroom homeschool. Those private schools, we have no voice in them. We cannot be elected to their school board. They do not have site councils. They do not have a representative on the state Kansas school board. We have no say on how those dollars are used. And a child like my own son would never have been admitted. A child that had all kinds of needs to make his learning possible for him. So, Shallenburger has kept his promise. He voted no against the voucher bill. However, Mr. James, you have voted to support vouchers last year and this year. So I'm standing here asking you to explain why you support our tax dollars going to private entities that we have no say, that our own children would not be accepted there, and you're going to have some more opportunity to vote no. And I would like to encourage you to stand that public dollars are for public entities. And I'm asking you to explain why you support vouchers, and also to encourage you that you're going to have possibility with SB 75, SB 836, SB 87, and HB 2680.
Now, if they come up on the one that you just talked about, I do support it, and I'm happy to support. You look at it as it's your money. I look at it as my tax dollar as well. If my tax dollar, if I want to take my child, which I did, I took my child out of a public school, the one I graduated in, and took them to a private school. If that's the case, why shouldn't we have that option? If you want to take that and drive them to the city every day, if you're a rural area, 55 minutes a day for your kid to go up there, and that's your personal property taxes and all the other taxes that you pay, it's not taken away from the school. It's part of your student. You shouldn't care where your student is educated at, only that they're educated. So that's the reason I voted for it.
Hello, I'm Linda Walden. I am the Chief Administrative Officer here at Freeman Fort Scott Hospital. So this is a question for Representative James. Senator Shallenburger talked about some of his thoughts on the 340B program. I would just love to know what some of your thoughts are, and if you can shed any light into some of the hesitancy you're hearing from the House on that.
Well, here's what I heard. We had so many people came from like Auburn, pharmacies, Hy-Vee came. There's a number of them. Blue Cross Blue Shield, all the ones that they all came through the Capitol on their views on that. And as it passed through the Senate, it's coming to our insurance commission. And I don't know if we're going to have a hearing or not. Senator Shallenburger, people think we might not even have a hearing?
340B is the bill we did last year.
Okay.
That's the hospital pharmacy, not pharmacy.
Okay. Well, I haven't heard it yet, so I'm not really sure. Just to speak on it. Okay. Other questions?
My name is Bryan Caswell. I'm a community pharmacy owner in Southeast Kansas. I have stores in Baxter Springs, Galena, Kansas, and in Cherryville, Kansas. I also have one in Southwest Missouri. And so I want to thank Senator Shallenburger for being the lead sponsor on the PBM legislation. He very eloquently kind of explained the challenges that community pharmacies are having. We have lost pharmacies throughout the entire state because of PBM's bill, because of PBM operations, I should say. So, in a nutshell, to help explain it, I buy medication for $1,000. I'm reimbursed $800. I have a decision of either accepting that, taking a $200 loss on it, and operationally you just can't do that. 80% of the market is determined by the insurance industry, and those are usually tied up into 3 companies. And so we can't take that $200 charge and really extrapolate it over to anyone else. So we're stuck with it. My other choice is to tell that patient, I just can't fill this medication. Then they've got to go someplace else, and in Baxter Springs, Kansas, that means if there's insurance money, especially state money, it's going to another state, it's going to Oklahoma, it's going to Missouri. And so there's no negotiations with these contracts. It's a take it or leave it contract. And personally, I'll just tell you right now, the reason why they don't offer a fair contract is because they're wanting patients to go to their own brick and mortar store, or they want them to go to mail order. Studies have shown that mail order costs more than it does when it comes to me. And that's because they own it. So they pay themselves more money. So this PBM bill, actually the main point, in my opinion, is that it creates transparency. So the employers who are buying this insurance are seeing exactly where the dollars are going. They know the rebates, and they can budget for themselves a lot better. It takes away all of the hidden capabilities that the PBMs are doing. They didn't become, actually, I think Kim said, 2 of the companies are Fortune 100 companies. Actually, 3 of them, all 3, are Fortune 15 companies. So they didn't get that way overnight. I've been fighting this PBM issue for over 30 years now. And I've come before the legislature numerous times asking for some help. We've gotten very small incremental advancements. The PBMs, just like squeezing the balloon, you take care of it here, they find a new way to make more money. So I'm asking Representative James is that I would love to have that discussion about the pill tax. I will tell you that the state of Kansas, back in 2015, I believe it was, when they switched from a fee-for-service program to a managed care organization, set up the exact same reimbursement situation that we're asking for. They saved millions of dollars. And Tim has said as well, other states have saved millions of dollars. So if it's good for the state, it should be good for the rest of the business community, and hopefully it saves healthcare altogether. But transparency and paying the pharmacies fairly so that they can stay in business is the primary focus of this bill. And we sure would appreciate your support in the committee that it comes before you and when it comes to the floor as well. And good relations with the Speaker of the House. If you could say a nice little word in his ear, I would appreciate that as well.
Yeah, and I've read some of the testimony actually last night, and Vicki Schmidt, our insurance commissioner, she had said it kind of mirrored the West Virginia bill. And I haven't looked at the West Virginia bill, and that was my only holdup from, just not knowing everything yet, was the $10.50. This $10.50 is actually in the bill. Because the last thing we want to do is see people get stuck with something like that on top of, what they're already paying for drugs. All right.
So the good thing about the 1050 is that the insurance is actually, the PBMs themselves have to more or less absorb that.
That's great. That's the case.
And by giving bigger rebates, or at least having the rebates out on the floor and they're transparent, you'll see where they can afford to do that.
Yeah, I noticed Blue Cross and Blue Shield wasn't very.
Yeah.
Mike Burns, Bourbon Pharmacy, and Bryan and I know each other well. Yes, you saw me and a lot of my folks up on the Hill. Senator James, I'm gonna talk about TRICARE because I think that's probably going to be near and dear to your heart. All of our pharmacies today, and hundreds of other pharmacies, thousands across the country, but even hundreds of pharmacies here in Kansas, do not participate in the TRICARE program. And I have family, and I have people that live in my community. I just took a call from my neighbor the other day about TRICARE. Mike, why can't you take TRICARE? George has to go out of town to get prescriptions. I said, Donna, I'd love to. The problem is the pharmacy benefit manager, Express Scripts, pays us less than I pay for the medication. You cannot continue to do that. And that's the problem. He talked about the monopoly that they have. 82% of all prescriptions filled in America are controlled by the big 3 PBMs, which are also the big 3 insurance companies. They have it all lined up, and the more that they underpay us, and the more pharmacies go out of business, the more it directs business over them to their own pharmacies, and to the specialty pharmacies and their mail order, okay? And, so part of this bill too, when you talk about the 1050 as a pill tax, what nobody wants to talk about is the NADAC portion in it. I want everybody to understand NADAC is National Average Drug Acquisition Cost. Don't you think it's fair, any kind of business person, you gotta at least pay them what they're paying for the product. And then you gotta think about, okay, well now, they gotta have a profit, they gotta have a professional fee. That's why we're asking for the 1050. We can no longer be paid less than our cost, or NADAC. We're asking at least pay us our cost, and pay us 1050. Now that 1050 was a study, I believe actually from 2017. That was our cost to dispense. That was 10 years ago almost. Look at the inflation we've had. We're not asking for a lot, and that is still what Kansas Medicaid reimburses us, is NADAC plus 1050. Other states have done it. Over 30 states have PBM reform, and they're showing that they're putting money back to providers, keeping them open, maintaining that access, and then maybe the TRICARE folks can, or the military folks can come see us. So Kansas has always been, we have zero right now. We have got to get this passed. But also this bill does, when you talk about the 1050, it also talks about no spread pricing. Let me explain what spread pricing is. Okay, 30, 40 years ago, there were no PBMs. They came in because they needed to be a processor to determine benefits and figure out co-pays and things like that. But then they quickly figured out, well, I'm the one contracting with the pharmacy. Hear me out here. I'm contracting with the pharmacy, and then I've got the payer over here, maybe Goodyear, General Motors, or the state, okay? They don't know what I'm paying the pharmacy. So what happened is over time, they kept paying the pharmacy less and less. Did they lower the bill over here? No, they didn't. They kept that spread. They could be paying the pharmacy $18 and billing the payer $38 or $40, which, by the way, they're still billing them a transaction fee and a management fee and all these other things, but they're not telling them about the spread. There are billions of dollars in spread. When we do away with that, those monies come back into the bucket to help pay your providers and put millions and millions back to the bottom line for the state and the employer. So that spread pricing is important to understand how much money is there. Real quick story about personal. About 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. Of course, I had to go through everything that you go through. I go to fill a prescription in Cape Side-Devine at my own pharmacy. I had Blue Cross Blue Shield at the time, and Optum was their PBM. I go to fill the prescription, rejected, specialty pharmacy only. At my own pharmacy, now here I am, I'm the patient, I'm a pharmacist, I'm a pharmacy owner, I'm also the plan sponsor. My company's paying for this insurance. So, specialty pharmacy said, okay, I know what's going to happen now. Who determines what's special? The PBM. Why? Because it's expensive and it's a more complex medication requiring more oversight and management of that patient and that medication. So send my prescription in, it goes to my oncologist, I pick it up every time. Over 6 months, not one phone call did I get asking me how I'm doing. Mike, do you have any questions? No. But I couldn't access my own pharmacy or my local pharmacy as a patient because I had to go specialty. Here's where it gets really bad. I calculated my EOBs, my explanation of benefits as they come in. There were 12 prescriptions, okay? I was on 2 different strains for 6 months, so 12 prescriptions. Had I filled those at my own pharmacy, sitting on the shelf, my cost was $2,600 across the whole therapy. And if I wanted to say, gosh, we made $20 a script, not $10.50, but even 20 a script times 12 scripts, that's $240, so that's $2,840. That should have been built to my plan. However, it went to the specialty pharmacy where they help control, thank goodness they're there to help control costs, right? They billed the plan a total of $50,000. Now, but they allowed $15,000. That sounds like a deal, doesn't it? So if you're not a pharmacy owner, you don't understand what they're doing, you think, well, thank God I've got that PBM and I've got that specialty pharmacy because it would have been $50,000. They saved me $35,000. What they don't tell you is, no, it should have been $15,000. It should have been $2,840 over here. They overbilled by $12,000 on one medication. One. So that's the narrative they're saying is, thank God we're here, we're controlling costs, and I give it to them. They sure are controlling everything. They've got it all. So what I did then is that I said, you know, when I beat cancer, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to beat the PBMs in my own benefit and my own plan. I cut the PBM out. I cut the middleman out. I was seeing a 10 to 12% increase each year, like most employers. If you're in here, you see it. For the last 6 years since I did that. And I had to, it came right from my third-party administrator and my broker. My plan expenses have remained flat for 6 years. How did I do that? I cut the PBM out. I went to my own network. There's other pharmacies that fill prescriptions for my employees too. I pay them fairly. So, that's my experience, my own personal experience as an employer, what they did to me, as a patient, and a pharmacist. So the results are clear. If you cut that PBM out, you cut out the spread pricing, and you pay your providers fairly, there are positive outcomes all the way around. So the 1050, I know that's, everybody's focusing on that, but remember, they've been underpaying us cost to drive us out of business. We have to require them to pay us our cost plus a reasonable fee, okay? I met with the Kansas Bankers Association a couple weeks ago, and they proudly sit back, because Blue Cross is telling them, you don't want this, because you know what? What they don't know is the Kansas Bankers Association and the bankers don't know is what they did to Mike Burns, they're doing to them every day. And so they sat back quite smugly and said, well, Mike, we only pay 30 cents a prescription. Does anybody in this room that believes a pharmacist or a pharmacy could fill a prescription for 30 cents? It's ridiculous. It's absurd to even believe that. And I said, well, okay, well, you're self-funded. Have you ever looked at the claim level data? Meaning, that peptidamine, have you ever looked at that? Because when you're self-funded, you should be able to actually see what you're paying. And the lady with, she said, well, why would I do that? I said, there's a problem. Because they're listening to the insurance company and the PBMs telling them how bad everything is. If this happens, it's going to be bad. The folks are just telling you, we need PBM reform. Representative James, I'll sit down with you and talk with you more about it. And I appreciate you even got back with Sarah in my marketing department. She sent that over to me. I appreciate that. You said the big thing is you've got to get your head around that 1050. I hope this helps explain why that's so important. It is not a tax. It is not a tax at all. It is just fair reimbursement. And again, that's from 10 years ago. So I don't think we're asking for too much. Questions?
Thank you for that. We're at almost 10 o'clock, and I know that the KRI is willing to give tours, and we're grateful for them hosting us this morning, and also like to be respectful of your time. Do you guys have any closing comments you'd like to make before we adjourn?
I will. And there's something that I wrote down I was going to talk about that I didn't. And it's the budget, which is the big girl in the room, and we've got K-12 people here, we've got community college people here, we've got hospital people here. And all of you know that you were told when this session started, there was going to be a tight budget year. And so, we all expected. I didn't go ask for any money for Fort Scott. I did last year. You didn't think you're getting less this year. Fort Scott High School, no enhancements. You're going to buy new fleet of buses of this year's budget. And we've kind of held the line, so to speak. It's only up $500 million. The state budget of Kansas is all funds. This includes the federal money we get to help pay for Medicaid and stuff like that, and a little bit for schools. Almost $28 billion. We have 3 million citizens. If you're a family of 4, it's costing you, now it isn't costing you because you're not paying the tax, but you represent almost $40,000 a year. That the government has decided we're going to take your money and we're going to just dish it out to people and you're going to be better off because of it. And so we held on, another 400. But in the budget that we're going to vote on Tuesday, there's $50 million for an airport in Wichita, in Salina, for one company. There's a company that wants an airplane hangar in Wichita, and instead of buying it, they've asked the state and tucked away, I don't know if it's in your budget, tucked away in the Senate budget, $50 million. It's $32 million, I'm sorry, $32 million for a company to get an airport hangar in Salina. So I heard that, and I thought, I can't believe it. So we did a little search. You got AI now. You can search. Well, there's the same company who get $1 million hangar in Topeka. Wow. Let's hire them a good lobby. And they did. And so I keep looking at what's this over here? There's $50 million. This is actually in our budget, which hasn't passed yet. There's $50 million to loan this company $50 million. And we take the money out of the pool money investment board, which is all of our money that isn't spent. We put it in this pool money investment fund, and the board manages it. But we've decided we're gonna take $50 million out of that to loan to this company. There's a little up and down there. That is 50 plus 32 plus 1. One company is owned by an investment company in Boca Raton, Florida. They are very influential in Wichita. Speakers in Wichita. Presidents in Wichita. Majority leader from Wichita. Speaker pro tem from Wichita. And no one said a word about it. Well, we're going to talk about it Tuesday. Because my Google search is off this stuff. Now, it may stay in there, and I've been told not to fool with it. But we're going to put, and that's just one. Now, my point in bringing that up is $27 billion. You know there's some stuff in there like that. I mean, it's just natural. You know, you take Fort Scott Community College. There's probably some stuff in there. You know, you may have a room full of paper you should never buy. Fort Scott, high school. You know, there's something in there. But what we don't want to end up being is Minnesota, where these nonprofits run amok and come in and do it. And I will tell you, and I'm going to shut up here in a minute, but I can tell you in the last week of the session, in my last week up there, and this, I bet the same thing with you. My door gets opened every 15 minutes with a new group of people coming and telling me they represent my district, and we need more money for mental health, and we need more money for health care, and we need more money for schools. And you know what? There's not any of them, really, very many of them, that are from my district. And there are all these nonprofits out there that have decided that it'd just be good to have a little more money. $40,000 for a family of 4. That's you're contributing a lot. And that doesn't catch property tax. Because your property tax funds your cities and your counties and part of your schools. So, you know, we've got enough government, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things we don't need to be doing. We can't stop funding mental health centers, even though your executive director here was making $680,000. I think he's going to leave. He may be in the room. But stuff like that happens, and we really need to watch it closer. We really need to be careful. And so if you belong to the Cancer Society, the Alzheimer's Fund, and they've come in and they've asked for money, and I don't vote for it, it's not that I don't care. It's that at some point in time, we've got priorities we have to take care of. And those are probably kids in school, roads, which we don't really supply, water, and sewer. And that's what we really ought to be getting from the government. I'll shut up. I appreciate you coming and watch Tuesday to see if we get $83 million out of that.
Senator, can I ask you a question? I think maybe everybody in the room is asking this. When you say we put that in there, that's not you. I don't think you're being very generous here, but who was it that put that in the budget?
You don't know.
Yes, I do. I think the whole room does.
Michael O'Donnell.
Okay,
You know him?
I do.
He represents a company called Meanling Aviation.
Okay, but who did he talk into? He's a lobbyist, by the way. Michael O'Donnell's a lobbyist. But he had to get to somebody in the state to put that in.
Yeah,
He can't
I
just
don't
go to
know.
the lobbyist. He can't.
I don't know. I see it came. I went back and I'm going to be in so much trouble. And don't do like that.
You got about $8 million worth of good Panasonic and Chiefs organization.
Right. Well, yeah, we're just starting to pay for that. But you
I
talk
don't
about
want to pay for that
Panasonic.
either.
Huh?
I don't want to pay for that either.
Yeah. Well, people don't want to pay for a lot of things, but some of them are over the dam. But I don't know. In the House, in the Senate, it was put in by the chairman of the Commerce Committee. It was put in. It didn't go through the committee process. So it was put in right. Okay, anything else before we pass this budget? Yeah, I got this vote deal here. And Boy's vote went in, Chairman wrote the time. And I'm not picking on that company. I mean, by God, they got their money's worth out of their lobbyists. But that's just an example of the stuff that's in there. That's very hard to find. And if I were as busy as Rick's busy, right? If I was as busy as him, I wouldn't have time to look for it. I've got people who can help me. And I said, what is that? What is anything else in there? Boom, there was this one. Boom, there was that one.
Thank you.
And I will bet you today, and I won't bet you, but yeah, I would, that I'll get it out on the floor of the Senate and it'll get put back in Congress.
Representative James? This is the person you want. If you want to get something off of something, just go talk to Senator Shallenburger. But
Did you see, is that your budget? Is that your budget? Did anybody bring in that?
no, nobody brought it to our attention. So we spend so much money over what we're bringing in right now. Last year we cut 200 million out. We're still 550 million over. We spend more than we bring in. So every year we have to cut 250 or 300 million, or we're going to run into that rainy day fund that we call it, and that money's going to start being spent too. And that's from the COVID years of having all that excess bonus money that was stashed away, thankfully. But we do, and both of us, there's lobbyists every day and visitors every day that want something. They come up there. So you just have to listen to them all and then ask around and talk to individuals and do some research to find out if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So hopefully I'm doing my job at that because I feel like I am. And sometimes we don't have the exact same opinions, but that's okay too.
So, Lindsay, as we wrap up, do you have any comments for the chamber?
I just want to say thank you again for coming. I know your schedules are very busy. Thanks again to all of you. Thanks for all you do on behalf of Fort Scott, Bourbon County, and the region, and around here. And we just appreciate you guys. And so a couple of wrap-up comments. KRI did host us today, Kansas Renewal Institute. TJ, if you want to come up, give a 30-second, because they are offering tours. And if nobody has ever heard of KRI, you can just give a 30-second overview of what you do so they'll know what they are touring. And for any of you that don't know, Kansas Renewal Institute actually came in and they own this beautiful building here. And so we're fortunate for that, and not just KRI, but all the other tenants that are here, which include Freeman. And if you guys are able to stick around as well, they can point out where our Freeman Emergency Department and 10-bed hospital are located as well in this facility. Southeast Kansas Mental Health is in the wing over here, as well as USD 234 just opened, what do you technically call it? Alternative? Tiger Academy over here in the former cancer center portion. There's IM Rehab and Fitness currently downstairs. There's a salon that's been here for years, going back to the Mercy Hospital days, and is TFI located in here as well. So we're fortunate to have this facility with so many healthcare related entities, and thank you to KRI. If you want to come on what you do very quickly. Brian does.
Well, thank you all for coming out. We treat ages from 6 to 22 here. We generally don't have anybody over 18, but we have our license to be able to do that. We have multiple units. You'll see that as you kind of walk through if you want to take the tour. These kids are in need of care, and they're here for an average of 3.5 months is what our program is. Our program usually goes over, so it's about 6 months. We work with families, we work with foster care organizations to integrate the care and to make sure that they have lifetime success after they come to the program. Trying to identify the need is very challenging in mental health, as you guys know. We've heard a lot of people come up and talk about mental health and the challenges that are there, but it touches everybody. It touches everybody in this room, it touches everybody's life every day. So we wanted to do something different. We take these kids and we take them on outings every Friday. We go to a lot of the local communities. We go to the art studio here. We do, we go to the gym this last week, played basketball, buck run. We do a lot with the school district, and we're very thankful that they're here. We do 8 hours of school downstairs. We're going to take them here for that, and we're very thankful for the school to work with us and to provide the education that these kids need. Always a challenge. We always work through the different challenges together and what that looks like. We also work with Freeman and be able to take care of the medical needs for these kids. We're trying to get our 10-bed open, which the medically compromised because of health patient within the nation. We're trying to do something different and provide funding back towards organizations like Freeman to have the state challenges each and every day, through licensing restrictions to, how do we overcome different pay scales and things like that. Those are the conversations that we're ongoing and continuing to have. And we as leaders here are grateful you guys are here today. We'd like you to get to know us, because it is something different. We're not just a standard PRCF within the state of Kansas. We're really different. We're the first one in 13 years to come into the state and to provide the care we are. I think we're still a little bit challenged. We're a for-profit organization, but we put back to the community some of the space, like up front. We donate our space for the school to come here, because that's what we want to be. We want to be part of the community. We're donating, the funding that we're getting off of attending to the organization to take care of the medical side. We paid for a building that had lots of maintenance issues over the years, and we came in and supported that and came back and said, hey, how do we make this work? And we have boiler issues each and every day. We have, chillers that are falling apart. We have all these things, but we put the money back into it because I care about the community. I had lots of people come to a special meeting, and I was very transparent about who we are, what we do, the losses that we had to go through, and how we're overcoming those losses. I do have a big voice, and I'm willing to continue to have that voice, because that's what my team's asked me to do here is, hey, stand behind us, do what you're doing. And a lot of you know here that I was going to come here and start other organizations. I worked for the largest behavioral health care organization at one time in Nashville, Tennessee. I grew up in Nevada, so I wanted to come back as close as I could, and this was as close as I could with a big, beautiful building that I could provide the care that we wanted to do. These kids, I can tell you every one of their names, who they are, their families, all those things, because I'm very passionate about what I do. I also care about the medical side. I want a hospital in your community. I want a hospital in my community in Nevada. As you know, there's going to be challenges there. But how do we think outside the box? And I'm trying to do that, and I need your help as a community to look at that and what that is. And any questions, anything you guys have for me, I'm more than open to sharing what that looks like. These are challenging cases. You're going to see that as you walk through. But these kids are kids that are in the community that we've had some great success with. And luckily, vestry's worked with us and how that looks, and we've been able to help a lot of families. Thank you very much for coming out today.
Thank you. And you employ how many currently?
We're roughly about 135 employees between the organization and outside the organization. And we're always, looking at growth and being able to do things. Unfortunately, as you guys know, we had to make some cuts here recently. We had some layoffs that we had to do because our rate was cut from about $815 a day to $572. And if you look at that, we're losing about $104,000 a month. That's a big shot to an organization. I stand behind what that looks like, and I'm looking at alternatives to be able to build that and make it look better. Because as a business mindset, you have to always look at how you're going to be able to pay the bills, how you're going to be able to pay for the paychecks that come through. And I'm figuring out different ways to do that. Luckily, for our 10-bed license that we've been trying to get licensed for over a year and a half, we went a different route now. We're going through DCF, which has really been great. They've really communicated with us well. We had a great call this week after 2 different calls. And we sent an email, we got a response back within a few minutes. And I'm telling you, that's something we haven't seen in a year and a half. So I was very excited about that. And we look forward to being able to open that hopefully within the next, 90 days or so as we go through the challenges, and we'll overcome those and see what that looks like. But thank you, Freeman, for the work that you're doing with that. And the docs are excited about providing the care for these youth that we're going to be doing. So thank you.
So come take the tour so you can see it firsthand. A couple of closing notes. We do have one local elected official here. Micah, you want to stand up and introduce yourself, one of our county commissioners?
Yep, I'm Bourbon County Commissioner, and I'm excited to hear what you do and go through your tour, because we do a little bit of contracting with Gerard. I don't know if it's the same thing, but I'd like to talk about it.
Thank you for coming today. Also, just thank you to all of you. Thank you for your support of the chamber. We have right around 400 members of our chamber, and on your table are our chamber champion members, which support the chamber at a premium level year-round, which helps make the work that we do possible. So feel free to take that with you, and thank you to all of our members for supporting the chamber as well.
Anybody that's going to take the tour, we do have a book that we need you to sign, just confidentiality as you walk through, because we do have youth in the building, so we do need you to sign on our book to come through the tour.
Okay, let's take off. Thank you.